Just at evening, we drove over to Deerfield, through the most luxuriant and beautiful country that we had anywhere seen in our whole journey. The grass is most vividly green, thickly matted, and rich as the shag of velvet. It seemed almost to realize the fables of the golden ages. Benjamin Silliman, 1819. Remarks made on a short tour between Hartford and Quebec.
Historic Deerfield is significant as a site because we're a great institution, but we're also an important place in American history. In 1670, it was the northwesternmost settled part of New England.
It is a place that is real, it's authentic, it represents the beginnings of America as a nation. It encompasses not only the early European settlers, but also the Native American peoples. And it really is a microcosm of the history of this country. It tells America's story.
The first Europeans arrived here in the 1670s, only 50 years after the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock. They were mostly young English men and women from Connecticut and eastern Massachusetts seeking good land where they could farm and start their own families. But life at the edge of the English Empire and contested territory was a perilous undertaking. Future conflicts would reveal just how differently Pecumtucks, the native people in whose ancestral homelands the town was located, interpreted the complex land transfers that established the English town of Deerfield.
It has been described as the best documented small community in America. All but a few of the historic houses are on their original home lots. The original town plan from the 1670s is still in place. The town retains its original scale, and in many of the houses we have objects with family histories that are connected to Deerfield, the Connecticut River Valley, and New England. And all of this together helps to convey a deep sense of place. A visit to historic Deerfield is much like an above-ground archaeological experience. Our work is to help our visitors to see those layers of Deerfield's history.
From the beginning, well into the 1700s, Deerfield was an international crossroads of contact, alliance, and bloodshed. As England and France struggled for control of North America, English settlers' growing numbers and need for more land directly challenged native people's struggles to maintain their own autonomy and culture. Deerfielders endured many raids in this period. The most devastating was an attack in the winter of 1704 by a large party of French soldiers from Canada and their native allies.
I was drawn to Deerfield to research the so-called Deerfield Massacre of 1704. I read documents about it, but I realized at some point I would be coming out here. And when I did, I was just blown away.
There are very few places in America where you can actually walk in to an authentic community of history. Walk down the street, go door to door, look at the homes and walk into the homes that makes it special.
Museum founders Henry and Helen Flint built the core of the collection and restored many of the historic houses along the street over the course of 2 decades. Their commitment to education and preservation remains at the heart of Historic Deerfield's mission. Inside these buildings, you are in the spaces where regular people lived their lives 200 years ago or more. And though we know that life was so different then, there are elements that we will recognize. There are people who are having company for dinner, people making ends meet. Someone might be struggling with an illness, or a family is making choices about their children's education. Stories that are so very familiar to us today, whether our families arrived here centuries ago or much more recently.
A tour through the Wellthorne House can be a very powerful experience. You start in the kitchen in 1725 and end in the attic in 1850. And through 7 rooms, you experience 125 years of Deerfield history. And you can see how the local economy evolved and changed.
When you go into one of these historic houses, it's very spare. Everything was handmade. In today's computer-driven world, it's so important to have young people remember what we have created here in America with our hands, from furniture to great silver to textiles to great paintings. And Historic Deerfield brings that alive again. Historic Deerfield is one of the great collections of American decorative arts.
The textile, clothing, and embroidery collection could be a standalone museum. The same is true of the furniture collection. What we call the museum's attic at the Flint Center permits us to have on view about 85% of our total holdings.
The powder horns alone, that's one of the best collections in the United States of powder horns.
Manuscripts and account books in our memorial libraries flesh out what experiences were for people in Deerfield.
Walk into the front door of one of the homes, and on your left is the greatest Bombay chest, across from the most wonderful Connecticut clock with the greatest tea table, and then you're looking at the most fabulous silver in the world, one of the great collections of American silver.
But more than that, if you just had the objects without any knowledge about them, they would be much less meaningful.
The programming at Historic Deerfield is of especially high quality. The curatorial staff, the educational staff, are highly educated people who have invested themselves in telling the story of Deerfield.
Our hearth cooks are trained to teach about how people in colonial Deerfield or colonial America prepared food.
Our program calendar is filled with rich opportunities for visitors of all ages, where we connect our collections and educational programs. Last summer, families learned how to make paint.
From historic trade demonstrations to lectures and symposia, Historic Deerfield offers approximately 85 programs for families, scholars, students, and the general public throughout the year.
Preservation of the site is especially important
because they're so thoughtful about conservation and preservation.
We're continually maintaining and restoring our buildings to preserve them for future generations and to provide an authentic experience for our visitors.
It's that kind of tune in next week review of the past that draws people back.
It's this sense of a real community steeped in history with poignant stories, lots of things to do, a great place to stay at the Deerfield Inn.
And what we do basically for a living here is to be storytellers. And with all these things and all these buildings, we've got millions of stories.
It has a powerful story to tell. It's a good thing for all of us to try and connect with these people who lived so long ago. And Deerfield is a kind of peak chance, it seems to me, to do exactly that.
It is not excelled by anything I have ever seen. John Quincy Adams, 1830.